once I gain clarity about where I am and I understand that that's not where I want to be, I'm going to bust a move. When was the last time you said yes to something and you had absolutely no idea and or plan on how it would unfold? But somehow you knew that saying yes was the right thing for you, right? That's what we're talking about on the show today. Before we get started, my name is Saley. I am a pharmacist by training. I am your host. Today's topic is about uncertainty and a dose of uncertainty and its importance in our professional journeys, especially as young professionals. There is something that I tend to always share with the students that I mentor. I talk to them about the fact that when you are so early out of pharmacy school, don't focus so much on the working smart part of your career. This is the moment to learn because you know what? There's so many people who are actually willing and interested to pour into you. The way you take advantage of those things is by being open and by demonstrating impeccable work ethic. This is the season of your career to work hard because it is through this season, after you've learned how to work hard, after you've kind of benefited from all the phenomenal things that hard work can bring into your life, that you will get to a season of harvesting where you can work smart, confidently, without feeling like cutting corners or doing it the shorthand way is going to put patients' lives at risk. I have a similar attitude about uncertainty. I feel like some of the risks that I have taken professionally, not all of them have worked out, but I can tell you that even in the risks that I took where I failed and failed miserably, sometimes some of those failures were public failures where a lot of people knew that I was going to try and I failed and everyone knew I did. I still learned from them. Because when I decided to recalibrate and I decided to rethink my plan around that goal and go back in, yeah, I was a completely different person with a completely different perspective because I did take the risk. The most notable example in my personal journey to success that I can remember where I took a risk would definitely, without a doubt, has to be after I had my son and returned to work and made the unbelievable decision to put clinical practice on hold and go back and do a fellowship. And so to give you a little bit of background, I graduated from pharmacy school and was able to pursue residency and matched at phase 1. I went on to complete that PGY1 residency. I tried my hand at the PGY2, didn't match at phase 1, but decided that I was going to move on and move forward and go to work and build my clinical career because I knew that the one thing that has never failed me is my work ethic. I have the ability to figure it out and I have the ability to demonstrate to people that I am eager to learn and that I am teachable. And so I saw a PGY2, especially because I'd fallen in love with infectious disease during residency. I saw a PGY2 as an opportunity to really specialize in an area that deserves that specialization. But if I didn't get it, I wasn't going to have that be a career defining moment for me. I was going to keep moving forward because I genuinely believed in my ability to work really, really hard and end up with a career that I could be incredibly proud of. And that's exactly what happened. I went to work. I learned a lot. I got very fortunate to be put in clinical roles that pushed me in clinical roles that really matched not just my skill set, but also my personal interest in the form of improving health equity and improving medication access. I had a very fulfilling professional career. And then I got pregnant and had my son and was off from work for 5 months. Upon my return to work, to say that I was different is the understatement of the century. I was a new mom, but that journey to motherhood wasn't simple because I was a high risk pregnancy the entire time. My son was born prematurely at 28 weeks only. So we spent a total of 71 days in the NICU. And then we came home where I took additional time off to stay home with him and for also my own personal recovery because I had a C-section, right? And so during my time at home, I spent a lot of time really thinking about when I returned to work, what energy I wanted to bring back to work. I was loosely working on some projects and things that I was interested in launching when I returned. Because for the first time in my life, I was thinking about legacy. My son's arrival forced me to reevaluate my ambitions and reevaluate the things that really were my motivators for success and the core of my ambition. And I found myself just feeling like he was the center of a lot of what I was interested in doing now. And so I went back to work. Things were different. The place was different, yes, but I was also different in what I was looking for and wanted to do. The technicians I was working with that has since become a friend of mine, I told her and I was like, I think it's time to move on. I think it may be time for me to do something different. I have grown as much as I think I can grow here, but I have a lot of ideas about where I want to take my career. And so I drafted an email that evening when I got home that I sent out to my friends, and some of my friends were text messages. And the subject of the email was so dramatic. It was so me because the title of the email was Time for a Monumental Pivot. And some of them emailed back and they were like, why are you so dramatic? Girl, just say you need a job. Just say you need a job. It doesn't need to be like time for a monumental pivot. Like, why so extra? But if you know me, like being extra is kind of like on brand for me, right? And as a part of that process of activating my network, a lot of different opportunities were placed in front of me. But I was really interested in elevating and improving my skills in research, my skills and understanding of clinical program design and implementation. I was really interested in understanding the business of clinical practice, right? Because I think that residency really focuses on understanding the clinical practice component of training you how to run a clinic, how to effectively see patients, write the note, follow up, follow through, coaching the patients to helping them meet their healthcare goals. Residency in clinical practice right now and pharmacy education right now in general, it does a really good job with preparing us for that. But I found myself wanting to disrupt healthcare in wherever setting I would be and wanting to innovate and wanting to start new things that I knew would improve access for my patients. The problem was I didn't know how to engage in what the business case is for these unique clinical services that I wanted to start. So I was looking for a training program. I really don't think I was looking for a job per se, even though I turned nobody's meeting down that wanted to engage about a job. But I really wanted to know if a postgraduate fellowship or anything of that sort would be available and possible for me to learn business of clinical practice, How does one write grants and proposals and talk to the C-suite about ideas that you have to effectuate change in your clinical practice and be able to elevate that conversation beyond outcomes, but you can have the conversation about return on investment. And to my shocking surprise, Howard University College of Pharmacy had such an opportunity where I would have an opportunity to function in clinical practice, but also an opportunity to learn research and also an opportunity to learn the business of clinical practice. After being a clinical pharmacist, after being in a position as a clinical pharmacy specialist for 4 years, I found myself submitting a letter of resignation to go on and complete a fellowship at Howard University. And so I found myself faced with this decision to leave my job and complete a fellowship. I knew that the fellowship would be an excellent differentiator, especially because of my passion and health equity and everything I understood this fellowship would afford me in the form of learning opportunities. But I didn't have it figured out much further beyond that. And the thing about that moment for me was that I was asking not just myself to make the sacrifice of going on to do a fellowship, but I was also putting my husband in a position and where we needed to have a conversation about this. Are you sure that this is what you want to do? And he asked me some really difficult questions that I didn't have answers to, but he also knows that I am not the type of person that just takes risks because I find them exciting or I find them thrilling, right? Actually, I don't. But he's known me for a really long time and knew that even when I'm uncertain, I have a plan to figure out and make sure that on the other side of every single move I make, that there is a way forward that will always work out. And so with his support, I quit my job. And I joined the Howard University College of Pharmacy as a senior fellow for 1 year. To say that it was challenging wouldn't be an accurate representation of what that experience that year was like for me. Because you have to think about it. It really challenged my ability to first and foremost humble myself. And number two, recognize the unique opportunity that I am being afforded in that moment in working with and learning from some of the most brilliant people that I have ever encountered. And the type of psychological and intellectual safety that I had at Howard University was unlike anything I can really describe since I left UMES. And I think like that is a really special thing that happens at HBCUs that we don't really appreciate when we are in the moment, right? And so it was a year of learning, but it was a year of a calculated risk. And so what we have to understand about our careers and our goals and our ambitions and what I have learned from my fierce ambition is that my next move may not necessarily always be clear, but I am constantly on the lookout of how the position I am in right now, what does that position help me see better and understand better so that the next strategic move, I am fierce in executing it. If the picture of where you are right now is clear and you can say with absolute certainty and confidence that this is not what I want for myself, and you know that you're being grossly undervalued there, you know that there's no real alignment between what you believe you can contribute and the things that you are being given space and energy to do there, you have got to have the courage to make that uncomfortable pivot off. You have to. Because if you don't, it leads to resentment. Like it leads to resentment. I could feel myself becoming like resentful when in actuality, the place was functioning exactly the way it was supposed to. I'm the one that had changed. I'm the one whose goals had changed. I'm the one whose ambitions had changed and motivators had changed. The place was doing what the place had always done. And so for me to have made the decision in that moment to say that I'm going to stay here because I've invested all this time and all these years, it was so much over time and so much over investing in that place and connecting with that and choosing not to make the obvious move, which at that time was, this is a unique opportunity for me to reinvest in myself and redirect the trajectory of my career, even if that redirection is not clear. I owed it to myself to make that move. And that's what I want you to hold on to, right? And that's what I want you to think about. I want you to really reflect on that, because I think what most of us tend to do is we think that the next move has to be clear in order for us to go. And I have had the opposite experience. What's been true in my situation is that once I gain clarity about where I am and I understand that that's not where I want to be, I'm going to bust a move. I'm going to bust a move. Because at that point, choosing to stay there, all of what's going to transpire, I can't even blame anyone for it, because it's almost like I am subjecting myself to it. And so that's like the thing I really wanted us to talk about with respect to what does it take to make the move. So it doesn't take clarity of seeing where you're going next. No, it just needs to be clear to you that where you are right now, that's not where you want to be. And that is sufficient. And that is enough for you to make the move, and no matter how uncertain you are. And so while uncertainty feels uncomfortable, I want to talk to you about reframing it. I want to challenge you to reframe the uncertainty as an opportunity. The benefit of doing this is once you've gained control of your mindset and the way you choose to view whatever it is, you are already 80% there. Because if you start to see the uncertainty as an opportunity for you to do whatever you wanted, it becomes a little less scary, right? It becomes a little less of a boogeyman for you. What you then see it as is another strategic plan I need to regroup and unpack around. Instead of, oh my God, I'm going to quit my job and then do what, right? But if you see it as an opportunity for growth, the uncertainty, it's lost its power over you. It kind of loses that heavy burden that uncertainty tends to be. Your load becomes lighter, because then the uncertainty that you feel just becomes one more thing you know you need to problem solve around. And what you have to remember is clarity doesn't always come before you make the leap. This is a huge myth out there, that the more planning that goes into the move, the clearer you are about the move. Sometimes clarity is just going to have to catch up with you. In my case, that's exactly what happened. It wasn't clear at all. I knew that the fellowship would help me. I knew that I would learn during this fellowship year. But the idea of like what would happen immediately after the fellowship, that didn't become clear at the time when I was making the decision to quit my full-time job. Right? So keep that in mind. Clarity, it may just have to meet you along the way. It is not something that you should wait to make the move because it isn't clear. It's okay for things to be a little fuzzy, because as you work on it, you're acutely aware that you're making moves, certain things aren't into focus yet, clarity will find you, clarity will catch up. And so at this juncture, I want to give you 3 pearls that I know I've used each time I feel uncertain. I ask myself these 3 questions and I actually journal with responses to these 3 questions to make sure that I am not turning the uncertainty into a bigger deal than it actually is. I get very pragmatic about it. The first question I ask myself is, what is the worst that can happen? It is such a simple question, but when you think about it, if you put yourself or you force yourself into a position where you have to actually answer the question of what is the worst that could happen by me making this uncertain move or doing this uncertain thing, watch how your mindset shifts around that thing. So that's my first tip. It's to really ask yourself, what is the worst case scenario? The next question and the next thing you should really ask yourself is, what tools, people, and information do I have access to that could help me sort out this uncertainty? In my case, it was the people. It was the people. It was the mentors, my friends, my husband, my sister. But it really was the people in my life who heard me talk about this idea of going back to complete a fellowship that would help teach me this, and I would hopefully learn how to do this and that. And them saying, this makes so much sense. This would be such a great differentiator. This is such a great opportunity. This is the perfect time to do this. Everyone came in with positive energy and words of encouragement as to why I wasn't making an uncalculated risk. I was taking a risk, yes, but everyone from my mentors to supportive friends, they were able to see something I couldn't. They were able to walk me through all the ways in which this would be super beneficial for my career. And that helped tremendously. And so the third thing you want to make sure you can clearly answer and sort out is, what milestone or checkpoint will I use to reevaluate? Because with any risk, you have to leave room for the possibility that there was a miscalculation, you underestimated how big of a change this is going to be. You minimized how monumental of a change this would be for you and your family. And it may be time to reevaluate certain things about the risk. People who are entrepreneurs, they will tell you that one of the biggest reasons why most of us don't quit our jobs until we reach a certain stage, a lot of it's because we are waiting to hit certain checkpoints to make that pivot. And for some people, they are able to make the leap more comfortably than others, right? So have things along the way that you want to hit. Like, what are some milestones? For me, writing a grant, going to a tech conferences, an opportunity to go to tech conferences and learning about that as a non-technical founder, and learning about how me as a clinician could be a person that can create a technology platform, and how do I get funding for that. But there were different milestones and different things I wanted to learn about that the fellowship was delivering, giving me a lot of confidence and reassurance that, you know what, this risk that I just took is absolutely worth it. And so these are the 3 questions in my experience. Once you can get clear about the risk you're taking, and you can get clear about knowing that you have the support, even if you don't have the support sometimes, do you trust in your ability to make it through? And have things that can measure your progress and measure to make sure that you are getting exactly what you wanted out of the calculated risk, that you're getting that return on your investment, because it most certainly is an investment. And I just want to add that uncertainty introduced me to a version of myself. Uncertainty introduced me to a version of myself I didn't even know I needed. And without taking that calculated risk when I did, I would have never discovered the version of myself that I am today. It is thanks to uncertainty that the version of Saleh that you see today exists. And so my microdose of change for you in this episode today are the following. We tend to wait for permission on too many things. Don't wait. Make a plan. Make that call. Make that pitch. Invent that thing. Say yes. Say yes even if you have no idea what's going to come after the yes. Because reality is you have no clue which yes can lead to the most transformative change in your life. And I want that change for you. And so for microdosing your success, find a way to become comfortable with uncertainty. To say you're going to embrace it is a reach, but you can learn how to build a relationship with uncertainty. You can learn how to make uncertainty surface as opportunities, and you can learn how to make calculated risk. And that is all I have for you on today's episode. I'm so grateful that you've listened this far and you're still here. If something you heard on this episode resonates with you or somebody that you know that may be able to benefit from what I'm sharing here on this podcast, please do not hesitate to share. I would like you to like, share, rate, and review this podcast. This is how the podcast becomes discoverable and we have more voices in the community that we are building. The podcast will be available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Please take a moment to visit our YouTube channel and support by subscribing. Let me know in the comment about a time you took a step forward, even though you were uncertain. In this corner of the internet, we are supportive and we are here to help everyone grow because success does not happen in giant leaps. It comes one dose at a time. Bye, everybody.